Welcome back to History Class with Dr. W. If you've tuned in for this lecture, you've probably already watched our two preliminary lectures, one talking about reasons why history is important and why I think everyone should learn their history, the other introducing some general broad themes that we will be coming back to over and over again in our course in early American history. So in this lecture, we begin to get into the content of what we might call our first chapter. The first series of lectures in this course will talk about the world in 1492 on the eve of European discovery of what is sometimes called the New World. And we're going to be talking about different parts of the world and the way things were arranged in around that time of 1492. Now, for far too long, a course like this has often started with Columbus and his voyage to the Americas in 1492 and approached everything from a European-based perspective. Let me just read you the beginning of a textbook called American History, a Survey, published in 1987. It begins, "For thousands of centuries in which human beings were evolving, forming communities, and building the beginnings of national civilizations in Africa, Asia, and Europe, the continents we know as the Americas stood empty of mankind and its works. The story of this new world is the story of the creation of a civilization where none existed." Well, clearly that is a fallacy, and historians of more recent years have recognized that in fact there were hundreds and hundreds of different civilizations scattered all across the Americas, many distinct, unique, and rich, diverse cultures that existed before Columbus and the Europeans ever arrived. So our study of American history begins not with Columbus and his voyage in 1492, but rather some 18 to 20,000 years ago in what is now modern-day Siberia and Russia. So it's in that era that our story begins, roughly 16,000 BCE, when the first Paleo-Indians began to migrate across what we know as the Bering Land Bridge from ancient Siberia into ancient Russia, what is now North America, and began to migrate down from that origination point, ultimately spreading throughout the Americas and developing and evolving into hundreds and hundreds of different civilizations over time. Now, these ancient North American civilizations were based primarily in hunting, and largely hunting big game, such as woolly mammoths or smaller animals like elk, deer, and wild horses. They developed some simple tools, typically made with sharpened stones that were fastened to pieces of wood. Now, these stones have come to be known as Clovis points for the New Mexico town where archaeologists first discovered them. These sharpened stones would then be fastened to sticks or wooden poles to make spears and other weapons. They also made axes, scrapers, and used antlers and bits of animal to create fishhooks, needles, and some other tools. Note that these civilizations did not have metal tools yet, which obviously puts them at a disadvantage once the Europeans begin to arrive. Beginning about 9,000 years ago, in the Archaic era, we start to begin to see the beginnings of agriculture, along with more permanent settlements. Archaic era Indians now did more gathering of fruits, nuts, and berries, and shellfish along the coast and in streams and lakes. They also occasionally would begin to plant seeds and develop crops. By about 5000 BCE, the first agricultural settlements begin to appear in what is now Mexico. They grew staple crops, such as corn and beans, and established permanent villages. Over time, these settlements grew, in some cases gradually becoming large cities and ultimately some of the largest cities in the world. With the stability of larger harvests and food surplus, there was more time for some people to develop the arts, create more tools such as baskets, blankets, and pots, and develop culture, all of which we're going to be talking more about in the next lecture. The largest and most advanced of these societies included the Olmecs from about 1150 BCE to 800 BCE, the Maya from about 300 BCE to 900 CE, the Toltecs from about 900 to 1200 CE, and the Aztecs from about 1300 to 1521. These more advanced societies developed languages, mathematics, architecture, and irrigation techniques, all of which, again, we're going to be talking more about in the next couple of lectures. It is the Aztecs who represent the largest and most sophisticated population in North America at the time of European arrival, and we're going to be talking much more about them in a future lecture. For the moment, just take a quick look at this map, which reflects the Indian tribes of eastern North America on the eve of European contact. And without really knowing anything else about these individual groups, you just get a sense of the overwhelming number of different groups, tribes, and clans that existed in North America before the Europeans ever arrived. As we move into our next lecture or two, this is going to become the overriding theme in these early lectures, the many rich, diverse cultures that existed in North America before the Europeans arrive.